This is going to be my first God Guide for Joust 1v1s, and I'm going to be discussing Mercury and how you should build him. I plan to make a couple more videos about Mercury on the matchups, how you play against most of the gods in the meta, what you should do, when you should do it, and different tips and tricks that you can do with Mercury that a lot of people may or may not have thought of, may or may not realize. But let's go ahead for this one and get right into the build. Pretty much every game, I start out throwing dagger and 2 of each potion. What you need to be doing is trying to get your golden bow online as quickly as possible. You start your buff, you get to lane quickly, and you do a few waves. Try not to aggress too much onto your opponent because Mercury's wave clear before he finishes golden bow is not that great. You're just trying to get there. Once you have your golden bow online, you can start putting a lot more pressure on the map and on the opponent. The second item that I happen to get is Warrior Tabi. A lot of people I see still end up doing what people did last season, and if you're against a physical god, go Witchblade here. I don't like doing that anymore. I loved it last season, but I don't this season. The reason is, Witchblade no longer has movement speed, and there is no speed buff on the map. We used to be able to build Golden Bow, Witchblade, have our speed buff, and rotate, get our buffs, and clear the jungle as quickly as we can now with Warrior Tabi. Because we can't do that anymore, we need our boots. The movement speed is absolutely essential for being able to get around and rotate and get back to lane in time to be able to not lose gold or experience tower. Now, my third item that I go is always defense. The reason for this is the fact that penetration isn't on our boots anymore. Because of that, defense has become a whole lot more valuable because we can't hurt people as much with the defense because we don't have any early penetration from pretty much anything. The earliest that I see most people get is Jotun's Wrath, and that's on a lot of warriors and maybe some assassins. The items that I have a tendency to get are Midgardian Mail, Height of the Nemean Line, Bulwark of Hope, and Stone of Gaia. Most of the time if I'm playing against a physical, I'm going to start out Midgardian Mail. The reason for this is early game, the 30% slow is absolutely insane. It lets you initiate and you take very little damage while simultaneously hurting their damage, similar to how Witchblade used to work. If you're trying to escape and they're trying to chase you, Midgardian Mail helps you get away. I go Height of the Nemean if the player I'm playing against isn't building any lifesteal. I'm finding them extremely aggressive, and they're probably going to look to force a very hard engage. If I'm playing against some magical, I go either Bulwark of Hope, Stone of Gaia, or Pestilence. The difference between Pestilence and the other two should be fairly obvious. If they're a healer, Hell, Chang'e, whatever, I typically go Pestilence. It's worth it for the quick 20% healing reduction, and it may change a fight. And it's not terribly different enough from Bulwark of Hope to warrant not getting it. Now, a lot of people have asked me why I go Bulwark sometimes and why I go Stone of Gaia others. Bulwark, I go if I see the enemy is trying to all-in me. If I'm playing against a Hebo who is just trying to take me from 100 to 0 really quickly within one wave, when we fight, one of us are dying or leaving lane. However, other people playing the same gods, even as Hebo, play it differently. They're not trying to take me down, they're trying to poke me with their threes, they're trying to slowly whittle me down and then all in me. So the fights last over the course of 2, 3, even 4 waves sometimes. If I see that the fights are going in this direction, then I'll end up getting Stone of Gaia, because the effective health that the regen gives you over the length of time that you're in lane makes it more valuable than Bulwark of Hope. For the fourth item, I generally go Lifesteal. Most of the time in the form of Devourer's Gauntlets. Sometimes I go Bloodforge if I don't feel like I have the time to stack and I want to put pressure on immediately. The fifth item that I get is going to be Penetration. Generally it's going to be Titan's Bane. Sometimes it's going to be Brawler's Beatstick. If the enemy has built a lot of healing, say I'm playing against a Cupid or a Shibalanke or whatever, and they start out Devo Gauntlets and have like a third or fourth item Aussie, well, their lifesteal is going to be a lot of trouble for me. And so I get Brawler's Beatstick because it gives me the penetration that I need to take down towers quickly, but it also gives me a much better boxing opportunity than Titan's Bane would give me. My sixth item is almost always going to be Deathbringer. Just pretty easy, pretty good, gives you more damage. Everybody loves Deathbringer on Mercury. A mistake that I see a lot of people who play Mercury and Joust make is that they try to build him the same way as they do in Conquest. That doesn't work. I've seen a lot of players who go Golden Bow, Boots, Deathbringer, Malice, and figure that that's the highest damage Mercury can deal, blah, blah, blah. And it really hurts them. They need the lifesteal to be able to box harder and stay in lane, rotate throughout the jungle without having to back terribly often. They need the penetration to knock down the structures because they don't have an AD carry on their team to knock down structures. They don't have anybody else. It's their job to knock down the structures. And if you build the penetration when you're supposed to, then you can take a kill on the opponent and convert it into both Tower and Phoenix. Now, sometimes I deviate away from this build. Let's say the enemy has lost complete control of the jungle. I have all 6 buffs on rotation. I'm 4 levels ahead of them. I got an early 1 or 2 kills on them, and I'm now level 18 to their 13, and they're just sitting under tower and clearing. I'll skip Devourer's Gauntlet, and I'll go straight into Titan's Bane. I'll dive when minions reach their tower, I'll finish off their minions, ignore them, and just start putting damage on their tower. Maybe even go Brawlers and keep doing that. Simply because of the fact that I'm trying to end the game before they can hit level 20 full build. If they're able to turtle out and hit that, then it doesn't matter how far ahead I was. They've made it and we're now on an even footing. And so I build the early penetration there in order to try to end the game early. At that point, or let me rephrase. So normally my build would be Golden Bow, Boots. Let's say I'm playing against an AD carry, Midgardian Male, Devourer's Gauntlets, Titan's Bane, Deathbringer. And after I've hit this part, once we're full late game, I'll sell my Midgardian Male and buy a Hide of the Nemean Lion. The reason for this is, as I said, Midgardian Male is devastating early. It's not as devastating late. A lot of people end up buying Sprint, which counteracts the slow it provides, and the amount of attack speed that they have by being level 20 and from their full build has pretty well mitigated the amount of attack speed that Midgardian Male is going to remove. Hide of the Nemean Lion doing 20% of all basic attack damage back to the enemy, just more valuable at this point. If they're turtling, then we take out all of this. Actually, nope, we'll keep the Midgardian Male. We'll put on the Titan's Bane. We'll probably even go into Brawler's Beatstick, and then start on our stacking, then selling Brawlers for Deathbringer just to try to kill them at the end. Let's move on to actives. Sprint. Sprint is love. Sprint is life. Probably the best active on Mercury. It's an initiate, so you don't have to use your 3, and you can use it to close the gap if they start to get away. It's a escape, almost. It helps you get away. It helps you dodge attacks. Just makes you faster. It's a steroid for when you're fighting. It's a steroid if you're trying to kill a Phoenix faster. Just because of Merc's passive, popping it just gives you that bit of extra power that could have made the difference between killing a Phoenix before you have to retreat and not. Being able to attack while moving helps you chase. Sprint is just an amazing active. The second active that I really like on Mercury is Shield of the Underworld. If I'm playing against a Burst Mage, if I'm playing against another auto attack god, Freya, Merc Mirror, any AD carry, I really like Shield of the Underworld. Stops their lifesteal. It effectively just makes you win fights and forces the opponent into a Shield of the Underworld as well. If you buy it and they don't, and both of you are auto attack based gods, you should then win every fight if they continue to fight you with shield, or it forces them into a defensive position and you get free damage on them. The third active that I really like on him is going to be Weakening. If the enemy builds 2 actives, neither one of them are really a threat to you, but also neither one of them are sprint, you can build Weakening or even Enfeebling if they have no lifesteal, no healing whatsoever, to slow them down, and it's almost like another sprint. You pop it and you start beating on them. You build it against healers like hell. You build it if you're afraid that the enemy's lifesteal is too much and you don't feel like Brawler's Beatstick is enough, and you don't need another active. I really like, where is it? Aegis. Aegis is also really good. I use it to get rid of Poseidon ults, just any big ult that you're worried about. The problem with it right now is you can't use it under crowd control. Doesn't really kill the active, but it's not as good as it once was. The last active we're going to talk about is going to be beads. Beads is still an absolutely phenomenal matchup. Great, phenomenal active. Great in certain matchups. Being able to use it to get out of stuns, the 3-second CDR, while not quite as useful as it was when it was 5 seconds, still worth taking into consideration. I can't tell you how many kills that I've gotten this season alone where they almost got away and I used the beads to get myself another 3 or another 1 to be able to finish. So these are the 5 actives that you generally want to look at when you're playing Mercury. The last thing I want to talk about, which a lot of people neglect and is still really important, are potions and consumables. In the late game, I absolutely always, once I have my elixir of power or defense, which I'll talk about in a minute, my potion of magical or physical might, I buy 5 healing potions, 5 multi-potions. As I'm leaving base, I just start spamming them. And so 5 of them gives me 2.5 minutes or so of regen. There are a bunch of fights that I have won doing this, where I won by 100 health. The regen that the healing potions and multi-potions give you while you're in a fight, even if it's only for 10-15 seconds, is huge. It can make the difference between being the winner or loser of a fight, and one fight can often decide the end of a Joust game. When you have nothing else to spend gold on, spend it on this. Between Elixir of Power and Elixir of Defense, generally I go Elixir of Defense, simply because of the fact that as Mercury, I'm spending a lot of time being the aggressor, and oftentimes will chase down a player through their Phoenix or into their Titan. The Elixir of Defense gives me that little bit more to survive that, because I'm not generally worried about how much damage I can put out as I am being able to survive all the extra damage that I'm taking from everywhere else. Sometimes they're turtling, and I realize that I'm probably not going to be able to kill them without taking out structures first. If I'm still trying to get a Phoenix down, and I have the ability to buy an Elixir, I'll go Elixir of Power just to give myself that bit more oomph to be able to take the Phoenix down, and before I retreat, get myself back together, and go to try to finish the game. Lastly, always buy your potion of physical might. It's just good. Cheap power, no reason not to have it. Well, that's the end of my Mercury guide. If anybody has any questions or comments or concern, please leave it down in the comments, and I'll make sure that I can read it as soon as I can, and I'll get back to you. Thank you for watching my guide, and I hope to get more videos out as soon as possible.